Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is the next video in the series of live conversation. In this video, I am talking to a Uipath aspirant and we are discussing about the various kind of variables which we can have in Uipath Studio and how to use them. In this video, we are also discussing what are the best practices that one should follow when creating the variables. We are also seeing how we can delete the variables, rename the variables, and how can we use the .NET defined variables in the UiPath Studio. So if you are a beginner in UiPath Studio and want to know more about the variables, go ahead and check this video. And in case if you feel like you want to have a live conversation like this, you can always drop me a message or you can always drop me a note and happy to connect. So this is the agenda for today's video. Today we are going to see about the UiPath variables and the UiPath arguments. Okay, how do we use them and what is the benefit of using that one and how should basically we use that. So this is the agenda for this video. We are going to start by the type of variables. We are going to see all these kinds of variables which are available in UiPath. How do we manage the variables? What are the best practices and how do I have variables which is not available in my panel. Then we will talk about the arguments, managing arguments, the best practices, converting variables, and every all of this in today's session. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, so I am in my UiPath Studio. Let me just go ahead and create a project. So I will go here and I will create a new sequence, design, and then I create a sequence. Now, do you understand variables? What do you know variable? You have
yeah,
been studying
variable.
C sharp, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. So what is a variable? Can you tell me?
variable is a container where we can,
Yeah,
like a container for storage. To
exactly,
put it
right?
simple.
So, and what are the kind of variables we can have in UiPath Studio?
We have string variables.
Yeah.
We have boolean,
Mhm.
boolean. We have the integer.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
boolean.
So let us. So now you understand, I hope, the concept of variable. So I will just give you a small background. So whenever we want to store anything, you can treat variable as a container. So the variable
Mm,
is kind of a container where you can store the different kind of values that you require during an automation. Okay. So now in
yeah.
UiPath, you will see there are three types. The first one is the variables. Then there is something called arguments, and then imports, right? So we
Mm,
will talk about this too later. As of now, let's just start with variables. So whatever variables you create for your automation are visible in the variables pane. Okay. So this is the pane. So the variables will be only restricted to this XAML. So as of now, we are in a XAML file which is called variable, right? Variable sequence. So all of the variables which you see will be restricted to this XAML only. So how do I create a variable? I can click here and then I can simply go here and create a variable. Let's say I want to create a string variable. So I will write like str underscore
wow.
string variable. Okay. And now there is something called what is the variable type. So if I just select the drop down, so I have bool, integer, string, object, data table. We will see one by one. So let us, as of now, I want to have string, right? And what is the scope? So this is very important. What exactly is the scope? Okay, we will talk about this later on. As of now, let us see how can we have a variable. So I have created a variable. Now if I want to hard code this, hard code means whenever I use this value, if I want every time to work with the same value, so let's say I just put my name here. Now what will happen is every time if I just take a message box. Okay, so I take a message box here, and if I just type the variable str variable, now it will print my name because I have hard coded that thing. So what do you think? Should we hard code or we should not hard code the values? Means is it a good practice to hard code or we should avoid hard coding?
I think it's a good practice.
Yeah, because see, let's say if tomorrow the automation requires to print your name, right? You won't be able to do that. So we avoid using the hard codings, right? So now if I go again to the the agenda, let us see the kind of variables. So the first one is the string. So what is a string variable? So as of now we have created a string. So what do you understand by a string variable? Tell me.
What I understand by a string variable
Yeah. What would
is
a string variable store?
text.
Text, right? So if
Yeah.
I have to store, let's say I will just open one more notepad. So if I have to just store, first name and the last name, right? So if I have to create variables, what would be the data type? So when I say data type, what would be the type? So the first name would be of type string, right?
String.
Similarly, the
Mm,
last name would be of the type, what would be the type?
string.
String, because string
String.
is string. And if I have to create a variable for age, then it would be
Integer.
integer, right? So you understand
Yeah.
this one, right? So integer,
Yeah.
string. So string is basically whenever there is something kind of a name, okay, and like all this thing. And integer comes in picture whenever we want to store a number like 32, 64, 45 for that matter. But what happens if I just do like this, 54? Now what is this? This is a string or this is an integer?
The 54 is an integer, but
Integer.
with that,
Hmm.
but with the, I think it will combine or something.
No, so what is happening, right? So if I will go here, right? So we have created a string variable, so I can store my name, right, like this. And if I just write here 54, now this 54 is a number which is stored as a string variable. Okay, so if
Mm-hmm.
can I use this variable to compare now? So this is 54 is now a number that is being stored as a string variable. So what do you think, it is a good practice to store it like this, or should I create an integer variable and then use?
It's not a good practice.
Yes.
It's
Here.
either you change this to integer or you change the default to text.
Yes, yes, correct, right? So it is always mandatory. It is not mandatory. See, you can store, right? But whenever you go in further part of automation, you will face the problem. So it is always at the beginning, it is always good to decide the correct type of variable for the correct implementation, right? Now you understand that text thing, right? So let me go, and if I ask you, if I have to create automation, I have to get the first name, right? So how do we get
Mm.
the first name? We take a input dialog, right? So input dialog is an activity that is provided by UiPath. It asks us to get the input. So I say enter first name, right? Or for that matter, first name, or let's say full name. I will just type it like this, enter the full name. Now I have to create a variable. So which type of variable should I create? You tell me. I have to get the first name. Which type of variable should I create?
String variable.
String variable, right? So there
Yeah.
you know string variable, right? But there is one practice, good practice, which is recommended by UiPath, that whenever you creating a variable, right, I can always do it like this, right? You can understand that it is first name, but this is a not a good practice. So what is the name, recommendation on the best practice is you just start with writing the data type, that is str. Okay, now put
Mm-hmm.
underscore, and then everything can be in the camel case. This underscore is optional, you can do it like this also, but camel case, first name. So which one you feel is good, this one or this one? Which one does make more sense?
The first one.
The first one, right? Because it tells me that
Yeah.
this is a string variable. So it is always a good practice to put the data type, and the variable name should be in the camel case. When I say camel case, this is the camel case, the first letter, caps, then everything small. So now we have seen that this is of string, so I can use here, and I will type here string first name. No need of anything, right?
Oh,
Okay, so let me again come back here. So now we understand how we can take a string. Now tell me, if I have to take a age, right? So I told you, right, one more good practice, that it is always good to have the name here, right? So we are taking the name here. Now tell me, if I have to take the age as an input, so I will go to the properties and I will create here age, right? So
age.
now what kind of variable should I create here?
Int.
And how should
Int
I,
underscore.
yeah, int
Int
underscore
underscore
age.
age.
Okay, and the
Yeah.
variable data type now would be a
Int
int
32.
32. And
Yeah.
this, now here I will just change it to str underscore, sorry,
H.
int underscore age, like this, and it will give me the age. Now this is the one way of creating the variable, right? So where we are, no, so I ask you what is the first name, this is a string, right? But sometime what happens, you don't know the type of the data type. For example, if I just ask you, okay, so this is one good thing provided by UiPath in case of variable. This is a click activity. Okay, I am clicking it somewhere, let's say here. Now to store the output in the properties, I require a variable, right? So sorry, my bad, not this one. So get text.
That,
Okay,
okay, yeah.
let us try. Okay, any activity I am using, okay, from UiPath, and I click here and I point it to here something. Now this property has an output, right? And I have to
Mm,
create a variable here to store this output, right? But
yeah.
if you hover here, you will say this enables you to send, but you are not sure that what value you are going to get from this one, right? So what UiPath do is you can always go to any of the variable and you can hit control plus K.
Okay, okay.
So what is the shortcut? The shortcut is control plus K. All you have to
Okay.
do is just write the name of.
I'm with you.
Okay, okay. So what is the shortcut I told you? It's control plus
Control K.
control K, and you just have
Mm,
to see, if you will see now this is changing to set variable, right? So you can just
mm,
create a variable. So let's say I just name the variable. I don't know the data type. So let me just create a variable for get output. Okay. So now what UiPath will do, if you'll go here in the variables, it will automatically create a variable for you, type of
type.
string,
Okay, okay.
right? So
Mm,
similarly, let's say I am using build data table. So build data table is other activity which is provided by UiPath, right? Now if you'll go to the properties, it requires an output. Now, do you know how do you create a data table here? You don't know, right? If I ask you to create a data table variable, will you be able to create here?
no.
No, right? So what you can do is you can go here and what do you have to press?
Control K.
Control K, and then write dt underscore, let's say, data. Right now, if you will see here, UiPath will automatically give you the correct type of the variable. Okay.
Okay.
So
Mm,
this logic applies to everywhere in UiPath Studio, that wherever if you are not sure about the data type, you can always go ahead in the properties, right? Hit control plus K. Anyways, UiPath will always, if you'll hover, it will always give you the instruction, right? So for example, if I
mm,
just hover, it says this is the private, in the result what is going and what is coming, like this. Okay. Now what is this automation doing? It is asking for the name, it is asking for the age. Okay.
Edge.
Now if I just take a message box, okay, if I just drag and drop a message box here, what is the purpose of message box?
To give a result like
It will give you a pop-up. Okay.
a
and
pop-up,
if
yeah.
and if I go to the properties, see message box, the input for the message box is if I go here in the text, right? So what is it expecting? So it expects a, if you'll just hover anything, right? So what should I
Mm,
give it? So message box will display some kind of string. So if I directly type the variable, what was our variable for the name? The name variable was str underscore first name. So if I go here and type str underscore first name, because message box can display it, right?
mm.
But can message box display the age? If I just type here int age, can message box display it? What do you think? Will message box be
Uh,
able to display?
it should.
Let us see why. It should,
Okay.
right? Because yes,
Mm,
correct. Why? Because it is, this thing is taking an object. If you will see the in argument, this is an object. Okay.
mm,
Now we have one more variable called, let's say, data table. Okay, now let me just copy and paste it here. So you understand it, right? So let me just quickly go ahead and run it. We will not go further. I'll just go ahead and run the file. And first name, I'll just put my name here. Okay, and again asking for the first name. Okay, we didn't change the label, right? We did not change the label, that's why it is asking again, right? Why it is asking? Because we did not change this one. So we will just change to enter age, right? And this would be again age. Now we will put only one message box. We will go to activity, we will put one message box, and we will write, okay, age for the user, which is the user, str first name is int age. So what do you think? What should happen if I just run this automation now? What do you think? What will happen if we run this automation?
It will pop up. It will demand
Hmm.
for your name, for
Okay.
your
Yes.
name you enter.
Hmm.
It will demand for your
Age.
you
Age.
enter.
And then
Mm,
whatever value we are getting here and here, it will just print age 4. So this is a fixed variable, right? Age 4. Now if I give my name, so it will write age for Mukesh is, and then my age here, whatever age we give. Okay, so
okay,
age.
okay.
So if I just copy this for you in this one, in here, I will just copy it here like this. So this is what we have written, last statement. So this is a fixed thing. Okay,
Mm,
right? We are getting this thing from the user, we are getting this thing from the user. Okay, so we it will type age for Mukesh is whatever age we print on the message box. Okay, let us just try to run this file. Okay, enter the first name, so I will type my name here. Okay, yes, H. Okay, enter your age, 60 years. Okay, and age of Mukesh is 60. Okay,
mm.
so now which two data type we have considered? We have used the first name, and we have used the sorry, we have used the string, and we have used the this guy integer also.
Yes,
Now
yes.
if I go, what other? So
Sorry,
you want?
I have a question
Yeah,
there.
yeah, tell me.
See, you said age for,
Hmm.
then variable was the first variable we created for name.
Yeah, this one.
Mm?
Yeah,
And plus the int for the age.
yeah,
Then why do you have to put to string again?
exactly. So that is what I was coming. So if I just remove the two string from here, okay, so
Um,
this is the age, right? Now,
mm,
if you will see, it is giving me an error. What is that error? Read that error for me, please. The second line.
error compile. Uh, Option switch on disallows implicit conversions from string to double.
So what do you understand by this? The second line.
Option switch on disallow implicit conversion from string to double. But I was thinking double has to do with like decimal numbers.
Yeah,
Did
decimal
we use?
and a kind of integer number, very big integer number. So if I ask you a simple question, let's come back to .NET, small thing. Okay,
Mm,
small one. Okay, so uh what is the result of this thing? 10 plus 20,
13.
30, right? Now, what
Yeah.
is the result of A plus B?
AB.
AB, right? So
Mm,
what is happening here? This plus operator is same. Okay, when these two are integer, it basically does the sum, right? But
mm,
when it is something else, it do a concatenation, right? So what is happening is a plus b, it is taking as concatenation, and for concatenation it always require the same kind of variables, right? Now in message box, we are supposed to give a message, right? What would be the form of the message, you think? What would be the data type of any message? It should be
Think.
string, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's why what I was trying here. So this is a string, it is in double quotes. If I just remove this, it will work perfectly, right? I have to just remove this plus also. See, okay, let's do it one by one. Age for, this is a string, correct?
Mm-hmm.
If I just put a plus here, now what would happen? It would sum or it would concatenate?
It will. It will. It will sum.
No, but what, it won't sum, right? So sum will happen in case of 10 plus 20, 30. So
Okay, two integers.
right. So now if I just put a plus here, it will concatenate, right? So what would be the my output as of now? So as of now, my output would be age 4, right? Now it is asking
Mm.
me, what do you want to put? So I am asking him whatever input the user give me. So the user will give me this name. Okay. So it will concatenate happy, no errors. Okay. Now I am asking one more plus. Now what will happen? It will again concatenate, right?
Mm.
Because age for Mukesh is now. If I again put one more, it will ask me what else, what more you want to, add it to this string. So this entire thing is now a string, right? This is a string, correct? If I just
Mm.
run it till here, if I just go here and run the file, okay, okay, my UiPath is firing up, and the first name, okay, the age, okay, and I got age for Mukesh is, right? Because we have just specified until till, and everything of this is a string now, right? Now
Yeah.
if I ask you, if I just put here any number, so if I just put here 45, will it work or no?
Mm. It will not. It will not work.
Right? So that's why, what is this kind of variable now? Integer age. This is of type
Mm.
integer. Now we are converting this thing to string. Got it?
Okay. Yeah.
Got it, right? Okay. So now
Yeah. I understand it now.
you understand it, right? So now
Yeah.
age for Mukesh is whatever age we are getting, we will display it, right? Now I want to check whether Mukesh is eligible to vote or not, right? So what is the voting age? So voting age, I guess, is 18 maybe, right? So how do I check which kind of variable I require? I require just true or false. So what do you
Yeah.
mean Boolean, right? So there is a
Mm.
special kind of variable which is called Boolean, and that will store only true
True or false.
or false. Okay. And how do we create a Boolean variable? Again, the same concept. Go to here in the Boolean, right? What should I write for the Boolean variable? Now you tell me.
Mm. BOL
No, that is okay. See, Boolean, you can always create like this. Bool underscore, is
T. Mm.
eligible, bool underscore eligibility maybe. Okay. But one thing here, we can use like this also, is eligible, because right, because Boolean will always give me true or false, right? So is eligible true means this he is eligible, is eligible false, that means he is not eligible. So that again depends on you. So as of now, let's keep it clear. So now one more thing, what is the default value for Boolean? The default value for Boolean is always false. Okay. So
Mm.
just remember that thing. Okay, so let me show it to you. I put a message box here. Okay, we have created a variable called bool eligible, and the value is set to false. Okay, now if I just type here bool eligible, what should this message box print? What do you say? What will I get in the pop-up? True or false?
False because it's on
False, right?
default.
Because I have specified it false. So I am running the file, okay, and I'm getting false. Okay, let me just close the extra one. Now, if I just make it to true, okay, now I will put a breakpoint here so it won't bug again and again. I will put a breakpoint here. Now I have made it to true. Now what should happen if I run the file? What should I get in the message box?
True.
True. I have got a true, right? Now
Mm,
what happens if I remove everything? If I don't give anything and I still attempt to, print, right? So now if I
mm.
just go and do it like this, I will still get a false.
Oh,
Okay. So what does this means? This means that the default value for the Boolean variable is always false.
false.
Okay. If you don't specify, it will always treat as false. So just remember, it can be asked you in an interview, what is the default value for the Boolean? It is always false. Okay.
False.
So now I hope you understand the Boolean variable. Okay. So now let us see the age. So we have got the age, and if the age is true, so I want to take a if condition, right? So if the age, where is the age? Int age, right, is
Mm.
less than uh,
18.
18, right? So
Mm.
now if you will go to see in the if condition, right? So this if condition is expecting in the bracket, what do you read? This is
Condition to evaluate when determining which activity to
no, the
execute.
data type. The data type in the colon, the data type is written as Boolean. That means
Okay, yeah.
that this condition will be either false or either true,
Oh, true.
right?
Okay.
So that's why
Mm.
it is written here Boolean. So Boolean comes in picture whenever you have only two arguments, that is true or false. If everything is true, it will go to this block. If it is false, then it will go to this block, right? I don't have any third option. That's why the if condition always works on Boolean. And how do we create Boolean variable? So as of now, we are not using the Boolean variable here, but I just wanted to show where exactly else you will see the Boolean variable. Okay. So you will see Boolean variable else. Let's say there is an property and an activity in UiPath which says element exist. So what do you think this activity will do? Element exist. So it just check whether the snipping tool is available on the screen or not. Okay. So what should be the return type for this activity? If I go to properties, okay, and if I just hit here control plus K and I write any kind of exist variable, right? So if I go to the variable now, you will see the exist will be of the type Boolean,
Boolean.
right? Because why? Because this activity returns me whether the element is available or not available. So whenever we have only two things, we just go ahead and create a Boolean variables. So now you understand Boolean.
Yeah.
Integer you understand, text we understand, Boolean we understand. Now let's come to the array. Okay, before coming to the array and the data time, let's say where do you want, if I want to store a date time, right? How do I store a date? Where should I store
A date.
date? So today is let's say 14th of February, right? Where should I store that date? What would be the kind of variable I should create here? Yeah.
Mm, that should be array.
No. Array is different. So we will come to array. So we have a variable called date time. Okay.
Date time. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
true.
So we have a variable type which is called the date time variable. Date time. Okay. So this variable is capable of storing the date, time, and date time together. Okay. How do I get to that? If I just create a variable, let's say I create a variable for date underscore, let's say today, right? So if you go here, right, see this carefully, you don't see date. Do you see date? No,
No,
right? So what you have to do, you have to go to
browse.
browse for types. Okay. And now you will just have to type here date and time. So you will see something called system dot date dot time, right? So you will have to select this one, system dot date time. Remember this one. Okay,
Mm.
system dot date time, and if I have to click OK. Now what this variable will do, this will store the date. Now the date, you can have birth date. If I want to, let's say if I want to calculate the age of the user, so we will ask the user to give his birth date, right? So that variable will be of type date time. And how does it look like? Date time. Okay, so now let us see uh, how can we get the date. Okay, so let me just ask the user his, you know we will just remove this, and let me just do a control D. So there is a shortcut to deactivate the activity, that is control D. Okay, that means disable. And if I have to enable, I will press control E. So now when I run this flow, this all activity won't work. Okay, so let's say I want to get the date and time, right? So what is date of birth? What should be the data type for date of birth?
That time.
Date time. Okay, cool. So DOB, and we have created a variable here called date today. Okay, so let's rename it to DOB. Okay, and we will write here. Okay, now let us try to run this file, and we will just print whatever we get. Okay, let us see what we are getting. I will put a breakpoint here. Okay, okay, it's deactivated, that's why. Put a right line here and put a breakpoint here. Now let's me debug the file. Okay, now it is asking me to put DOB. Okay, so what is the date format? So let's say 10th of December and 2020. Okay, right. Now if I go here, so do you see what is the date variable is now set to this date? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
right. So this is how you use the date time variable. And now what happens if I put some garbage in the date time value? Okay, let us see. If I just go ahead and debug the file, and it is asking me for the DOB, and that is going to stored in a date of birth variable, right? So if I just put my name, so we have got an exception. What is the exception? Can you read?
Yeah, Mukesh is not a valid value for date time.
Why? Because the date time format is this one, right? Slash,
Yeah.
then slash slash. So if you put anything wrong, it won't accept. Now one quick information, let's say if you want to get today date, right? So what you can do is you can always go ahead and use a variable called today. So .NET has a variable which is created. Okay, so assuming that I want to know what is today, so what I can do is I will write here today. So what is the type of today? Today is a kind of date time, right? So we write date time dot today. Okay, and it will give me the today's date. Okay, let me put a breakpoint here and debug the file. So this is from .NET, this today, and you see, right, we are getting today's date. Okay,
Mm.
so similarly you can give the time, hour, second. So now I hope you understand this variable also. So can you now, if I ask you to write an automation to get, so if I ask you to write an automation where you have to get the name, okay, you have to get the DOB, okay, and you have to get the forget about the gender, let's say name, date of birth, and address from the user, and you have to return this, hi. So it's say if I provide the name as Mukesh and DOB as, let's say, 10th, sorry, 10th of January 1990, and then I have will provide the address as India. So you should give an output like, hi Mukesh, your age is as of today. So this is 2010. So your age as of today, what is today? So today is uh 13th of February 2020 is 20 sorry, that's a 31 years. Can you make automation like this? So this is my input, okay, and this is my output, okay. Can you make this? What do you think?
Mm, I think I can. I think I can try.
Okay, so I will just ping this in the group chat, and you can try that one. Okay, we'll keep it here, and then at the end I will give you the assignment. Okay, simple
Okay.
one, right? You have to take three message boxes, ask this thing, make the correct data type, and then this should be the output, and this output should be in a message box. Okay, message box. Fine. So now I hope you understand the date time, right? Date time, text, this one, and now let's go to the data table and the array. Okay, so tell me one thing. uh, this is Sunday, okay, this is Monday, this is Tuesday. If I have to store all this information in one variable, okay, all this information means all this information in a single thing, how can I do that?
You have to create an array.
Right, so we have to create an array, right? So when
Mm.
you create an array, right, so what is an array? Array is a, okay, I will just go by the definition, fixed size, okay, fixed size sequence collection, okay, of items
Data
of same type. This is very important, same type,
of same data type.
same
Abi
data type,
same.
correct, correct, correct,
Yeah.
correct, right? So array is definitely a collection. So this is a collection where you will have object items stored in a form of a collection, and all the items should be of the same type. What when I say data type, that means that if the first item is a string, the second item should be also string, right?
String.
You
Yeah.
cannot
Mm.
store it like this Sunday and then you store 1 2 3,
One,
right?
two, three.
Then Thursday
Okay.
and you say I want to store true. If
Mm.
if one item is string, everything should be string. If one item is integer, everything should be
It
integer,
should be
right?
integer.
So
Yeah.
so if I ask you what is an array, what do you understand by an array? Can you give me a short summary of array?
Array is a let me say it's a type of variable
Hmm.
that stores um same type of data type, same collection of a data type.
Right, right, okay.
Yeah.
Now let us go to the variable pane, okay, and let us type to create an array. So assuming that I have to create a string array, so I will write string array, okay. Now if I go to the data type, variable type, do you see something here? Array. Do you see somewhere array?
Array of t. Yeah.
So which option should I select?
Array of t. Array
Okay,
of t.
I selected this. Now what is UiPath asking me? Can you see? UiPath is asking me array of
Of
t.
your data
So what
type.
is t? Right? Which data type you want to create? So now
Yeah.
as a developer, you should select the correct item. For example, if we are creating an array for, let's say, number. Now
Mm.
this was one array. Now if I want to create an array like this, what would be the data type I select? I select integer.
Int.
If I'm
Yeah.
selecting this one, I select that one, right? So I will, let's
Yeah.
say, go ahead and I select
String.
string. So now if
Yeah.
I, as soon as I click OK, it will give me system dot string array. Can you see? And if
Yeah.
I just change it to, let me change it to integer. Now it will change accordingly. right?
Mm.
So why do you think UiPath is asking this thing? Because we have seen that array will be always of same data type, right? That's why
Yeah.
UiPath will ask you that, okay, you are going to create an array. Tell me which type of array you want to create. So, okay, I am telling that I want to create an integer array. Okay, that way. Okay, now that is an array. Now how do I, so we have seen how an array looks like, right? So let me, if I ask you what is, how do I put a default value here? How can I put a value for first name? Tell me any value. I will just write here, right? How can I
Mm.
pass the value to age? I can simply write 90, right?
19.
How
Mm.
can I pass the value? Okay, let me just get rid of the extra one. How do I pass the value to the boolean?
False.
False, right? So that means this is the default value. And if I, let's say if I type false here, will it take?
No.
No, because it will say no, I am not of that data type, right? It will say that cannot convert boolean to integer, right? Simple. Now
Mm.
I type here 80. Now date of birth, date time. So if I write here, let's say 12, will it take?
No.
No, but if I type 12 12 2021, now it's a date, it's taking, right?
Mm.
Similarly, how do I put values in array? So to put the values in array, we have to put this curly braces. Okay.
Braces. Okay.
Then what is the type we are getting? Integer 32,
Int.
right? So we can
Mm.
just write like 100, comma 200,
200.
comma 300,
Mm.
comma 400, like this. Okay. And what if my array is a string array? Right, now it will break, right? Now it will say that, okay, I am not able to convert because you, now what UiPath is telling me, you have told me that you are creating a string array. Okay, what is this error? Okay, let me just delete the extra variables I'm creating. Okay, so uh, delete. So UiPath is telling me that string array, you are telling me that you are creating a string array and you are giving me numbers, right? That's why it is giving me an
Mm.
error. So what is that error says? See, it's clearly mentioned, right? String integer to string, because this is integer and this is string. Now how do I create a string array? So let us just go ahead and create a string array for Sunday, Monday. So double quotes, because string is stored in a double quote. We have seen, right? Mukesh was a
Mm.
string and it is coming in double quotes. So for string array, we have to store Sunday. Then what should I put? I put a comma, right? So that is the second element. The second element would be Monday. Now comma, the third element, that would be Tuesday, Tuesday, and it works, right? Because this is a string array. Now the question arises, I have given everything. Now how do I use this in my automation, right? How can I use the string array in my automation? It is very easy to use the, so first of all, let me just tell you a little bit about arrays. Array work on the concept of index. Okay, so this is an array. Okay, what is this? This is an array of string. Okay, and
Mm.
what is the array name? So let me just change the name to str string array of weekdays. Okay, so this is the name. This is the string array and this is the name, string array of weekdays. This is the name of the array. Okay, this is the name of the array and this is the value. So this is a, okay, let me do it like this, 1 second. Name, this is the name of the array, string array weekdays, and these are the values. Okay, simple. So this is a string array, this is the name, and these are the values. So arrays work on the concept of index. Okay, so the first index is 0. So 0, Sunday, the index would be 0. For Monday, the index would be,
1,
okay, for Tuesday, the index would be 2.
2,
Okay, so this is a question which you can again get in interview, where the array index start from. So the array index start from 0.
0.
Now let's say I want to get the value of Sunday. Okay, this is a list, right? Kind of collection. How do I get this Sunday from here? So if I just write str array and then, okay, let me just go to a message box here once again. Okay, I will type here string array, right? If I put here what it is asking in the bracket, can you read?
Index as integer.
So what should I put now?
0.
0, right? And
Yeah.
then dot to string, because this is a message box, so dot to string. Now if I run this flow, what should I get in a message box? I should get Sunday.
Sunday.
Run the file. Okay, I just print run the file. Okay, Sunday. Okay, and now the rest of the automation is firing up. So I hope this is 0, this is 1, this is 2. Similarly, if it is integer, we will put everything like this. If it is boolean, date time, so we can have array of any type, right? So this t means anything. Okay, so do you understand array now?
Yeah.
Boolean, text, integer. Now the last one, which is the data table and the generic value. So the data table, what is a data table? So Excel, let me go to the Excel. We have all seen the Excel, right? So what is the good thing about Excel? So in Excel, it is a everything is available in the form of rows and column. So this is a column, and sorry, this is a column and this is a row, right? So wherever, if we have any data, right, that is in the form of rows and columns, we will take a data table. Simple plain statement. Whenever your input data is in a form of rows and column, what data you will store? You will store everything in a form of data table. Hello, hello.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay, so what I was telling, so whenever you have data, right, that is in a form of, rows and columns. Okay, so like this tabular data. So do you understand tabular data?
Yeah.
Uh, right. So this is a table. So whenever you have a data that is in form of table like this, which data type you will use? You will use the data table, because if you'll see, this name only suggests data table, right? So whenever you have tabular data, you will use the data table. So how can I get a data table? So let's me just delete this. Okay, so we get data table whenever we scrape anything. Okay, so let me go to, Internet Explorer quickly. I will show you something. So assuming that I go to Amazon. Okay, and I have to search for laptops. Okay, so let us assume that I want to get all this detail from Amazon. Okay, so how can I get it? So if I go here in the design, I just want to show you about the data table. I go to data scraping, select, this is the first item I want to get. Okay, next is this. Okay, next. Okay, extract correlated data 26,000. Next, this guy. Okay, next. Now see, I have finish. Okay, I am telling UiPath that you have to get data from Amazon.com, and you have to get the laptop name and the laptop price. So I am asking UiPath to get me the laptop name and then the laptop price. So this data is in a form of rows and column, right? So the laptop name would be like Acer, and then it would be of, let's say, 12,000. Then it would be Dell, and then it would be, let's say, 16,000 something, right? So what is this format of data? This format of data is in rows and column. Okay, so that's why if you see here in the UiPath Studio, in the extract data table, if you go to the properties, it would have created a variable called extract data table, and the variable type is data table. Okay, so do you understand now what is a data table?
Yeah.
So wherever we are getting a data, so give tell me one thing. If I have to read an Excel, okay, from UiPath, if I have to read an Excel, so what would be the output of read Excel? If I read the Excel in UiPath, what should be I
Okay.
getting at output?
That is, if you should read Excel,
Yeah. If I just read this Excel, okay, what should I get in UiPath? What is the data type? What would be the variable type?
it will be I think it should come out as a string variable.
No, so
No,
because if it is a string, then everything will come in a single line, right? So how will you read it? So it is a
okay,
table or
array.
yeah. So it will come as a data table. Just now we show
Okay,
see, right? Because if the data is coming like this in rows and columns, so what is this? This is a column and these all are rows, right? So
rows.
whenever we have
Mm-hmm.
rows and column, so whenever we read any data from the Excel, we will get in the form of data table. Let me just quickly show you. So we have something called read range, okay, Excel, and then read range. If I go to the read range, it will ask me that which sheet you want to read, and if I go to the output, see what is the output. Output is a
Data table.
data table. Why data table? Because Excel is storing data in the form of rows and columns, right? So whenever you are
Mm.
having any data that is being stored in the form of rows and column, you will store the you will sorry you will get the store the data in the form of data table. Okay, now I hope now you understand integer. Can you just give me an example of integer? We will write here and
20.
20. Okay, and text.
Mm, Mukesh.
Okay, good. A boolean.
True.
True. Okay, an array.
An array, maybe January to December,
Okay,
January,
and in curly
February.
braces. Okay, because and
In
like this. Okay, jan
then,
and
yeah,
feb. Okay, so this can be
Feb.
now any data type, and a data table would be anything which is having a rows and column. Okay,
Column.
tabular
Mm,
structure. Now date time.
12, 12, 6, 2021.
Okay, now the last data type, which is called the generic variable. So now let's say if I tell you that what is the data type for this snipping tool, you don't know, right? It
Is
can be anything, right?
okay.
or
Mm,
or if I ask UiPath to go ahead and read this guy 26,785, now UiPath will say me there is rupees also, there is 26,000 written also, so I am not able to get where should I store, what should be the type of data table I create, what should be the kind of variable I create, right? So UiPath
mm.
is has a variable which is called generic, right? So you will see UiPath has a variable as a type called generic value. So what is this generic? This generic means you can store anything. Okay. So if you will just go here uh, uh, and the variable, let me just show it to you. Okay. Generic variable in UiPath. Okay. So whenever you are not sure that what would be the kind of value you are going to get, you will use the generic one. Okay. So the generic value is the type of variable that can store any kind of data. Okay, if it is text, number, date, array, and is particular to UiPath Studio. Okay, generic variables are automatically converted to other data types. Okay, so we will see that in action. So whenever you are not sure, we can always go ahead and create a variable. Let's say I am not sure what this variable will be, so I can go ahead and create it like generic. So how do I create? You have to just write here generic, right? And then you will see system sorry somewhere you would see for UiPath dot generic, this one UiPath dot core dot generic value, hit OK, and now
Mm-hmm.
it will create a generic value variable for you. Now you can store anything here. Okay, okay, like this 20, right? You can store a number also, right? Because this is generic, right? So you can
Mm.
store false also, right? But now if I attempt to store false, it will give me an error, right? It will say that no, I am not allowed, but here it is allowing because that is generic, right? So simple
Mm.
example, wherever you are using variables and you are not sure of the data type, we will use the generic thing. Okay, now talking about the variables, we know how do we create variables, right? So we have created lots of. How do we delete variable? We can just right click and delete.
Okay.
Okay, right click on any variable which you don't require, right click delete. So for example, okay, one more important thing. See, just remember whenever you are doing any automation, right, there is something called scope. So I told you, right, we will talk about scope a little while later, right? So this is a sequence, right? This data scraping is one sequence which is inside the variable sequence, right? So we have a parent which is called variable, and then inside it we have a sequence called data scraping, and then we have one more sequence that is called do, right? So how it is like, first at the top we have variable, then we have data scraping, then we have attach, and then we have do, right? So whenever you go to the variables, you will have a drop down and you can select the scope. Okay, what does that mean? So if this is extracting the data from the data table and we are storing this in a data table, dt data table, now you don't want this data table to be visible to its parent. Okay, here, so what you can do, you can restrict the scope to the inner one. If you want this value to be available throughout, you will just write variable. Now let me show you what does it mean. Okay, uh, this is pretty interesting one. Okay, let me create a sequence. Okay, I will drag and drop a sequence. I will call it, let's say, mm, get data. Okay, and now we will create one more sequence. I will call it paste data. Okay, now if I go to the inside get data and I am asking the user to give me the date of birth. Okay, so now the date of birth is was stored in a variable this. Now I can change this to only to get data. Okay, now we are asking user to give me the date of birth. Okay, so the date of birth is getting stored in which variable? Date of dob. Okay, now if you go to the variables and you will
Yeah.
see date of dob has a scope of
Yeah.
get data, right? Now if I try to use
Mm.
get data here for, let's say, I want to have a message box, I will drag and drop a message box here, and if I attempt to use the variable that is the date, I am not getting that variable. Why I am not getting? Because, can you tell me the reason?
It's not the same scope
Right, because this is a different scope, right? So if I want the variable to be available here, what should I change the scope to?
to variable.
To variable, because this is the parent. Okay, so now if I go here and if I type date and hit like this, I am getting the variable. So it, in the UiPath world, we should always restrict to the variable wherever they are required, right? We should not always, so this variable is my parent. Okay, so this variable is nothing but my parent. We should not put everything to the parent. Okay, if it is only required till this thing, just restrict it to till that thing only. Don't, you know, don't increase the variable scope unnecessarily. So this is a recommendation which is provided by UiPath, that this should be restricted. You should not keep everything on the parent level. Okay, so just remember this one, the scope thing. Now there is one more important functionality, very good one, which is provided by UiPath. Let's say while development you have created a lot of variable like this. Okay, like the way I was deleting, right? Now if I go here and if you'll go to the design tab, so there is a property, what is called, can you just read that for me please?
Yeah, which design
This one, remove.
remove use
So
variables
what should happen
for
if I click this one?
uh that is variables that are not under this
Hmm.
sequence
Yeah, so no, the
will
variables which are not getting used. So we are not using this variable anywhere, right? We have not passed any value. So if I click this button, what will happen? It will clean everything for me. Now the solution is clean,
okay.
right? So by mistake, if you click lot of variable, you can always go here and click on remove unused variables. So that what that will do, that will remove all the extra variables that you have created. Okay. So that was all about, creating the variables. Now if you want to have a variable that is not available in the drop down, what you can do, you can always go to the browse for types and then select the type of variable, right? Can you see we can have this many type of
Mm,
variables, right? So UiPath just demonstrate you the most recently used one, but you can always go ahead and use the any kind of data variable which is available in .NET by using this drop down. Okay, now that is, I will just wrap this session for variables here. Okay, let's connect sometime in the day and we will discuss about the arguments. But I would like to send you this link. Okay, type of variables. So
okay,
docs.uipath.com. So there is a section called variables. So you go through all this one. Okay, the name, managing
okay,
variables. Okay, so then there is the naming best practices, which we have discussed, that how should we name the variables. Then we have seen the type of variables. Right now, if you will go through it, see generic, true, false, number, array, datetime, data table. Right, we have all seen this. Now if you'll go through this, you will be easily able to understand, and if you're not reading it right, you will easily forget it. So after this session, okay, just you I have two assignments for you. The first one is, you have to, I don't know where I, this one. Okay, this one, this is the first assignment. You go and read, create this assignment. Okay, next you go to docs.uipath.com and read everything about the variables. Okay, whatever we discussed today, and if you have any doubt, let me know. Okay.
okay, yeah,
Okay, next session we'll connect about arguments and the workflows. So just don't forget to read. Okay, you should not
yeah,
leave it like this, because this is very important when you come to the automation, because these are the building blocks. If your these concepts are clear, then only you will be able to write a nice automation. Otherwise you will
yeah,
just keep struggling with the variables and all. Okay, so I
yeah,
will just
okay,
copy this in the chat section. Okay, you go ahead, create this automation which I'm pinging, and read about the variables from the UiPath Studio, this UiPath docs. Okay.
okay, yeah.
Okay, then can we disconnect, or any questions you are having? Let me just stop the recording.